I want to share a little bit of my experience, and that'll be kind of all I have to share in this presentation. So I'm going to take a look at these three areas, as I suspect these will be three primary areas of decision making for you all. I have friends, proximity, and sports. So I'm going to start with the friends. Friends, it's kind of an interesting one, and I'll tell you this brief story. I had a friend that I had gone to school with since kindergarten. Kindergarten all the way through 8th grade. We knew each other really, really well. He moved to the area, and within a few months we became really good friends. And from kindergarten through, I would say, 7th grade, we'd just call each other best friends. We would do a lot of things together, very, very close. As we got into 7th and certainly more into 8th grade, our priorities started changing. And there's so many factors that go into that. Obviously with teenagers, you've got a lot of chemicals going on, a lot of things changing in their bodies and just what they think is important. And so anyway, we started changing. I kind of went down one path, and what had been my best friend for many, many years kind of was going a little bit in a different path. But he was still a close friend of mine, even through 8th grade. And if I would have decided to go to the same high school that he was going to, that might have changed. As we got into high school, honestly, I didn't really say a whole lot to him throughout my entire high school career. He kind of found his own friend path, and I had my own group of friends, and we pretty much went our separate ways. It's kind of a sad story, but it hopefully brings this point to home that friends change, especially throughout the transition to high school. Obviously, whichever high school your student ends up going to, they're going to go to a high school that's bigger than Zion. There are many fish on the pond, and there are friends that they're going to continue to have probably from Zion. If there are other Zion students going to the same location, you're going to have some of those same friends, and that'll carry over, and that's great. But you're also going to have new friends too. And some friends are going to change throughout that process. So if I would have gone to, we ended up going to the same high school, my friend in the story and I, but if I would have gone wherever he would have gone, that wouldn't have been a good thing, as within a few months, what had been my very, very close friend would have kind of been a more distant friend. Secondly, proximity. So I'll just get right to it. You guys know that I grew up in kind of the Godfrey Alton area, and I ended up attending Metro East Lutheran High School. One of the worries that I had going in was, oh man, I was used to a 6 or 7 minute drive to school every day, and now I had about a half an hour drive. But honestly, one of the things that that changed my mind about the whole process, just the whole carpooling thing. As a freshman and sophomore, or I guess, sorry, just a freshman, I rode to high school each day with my sister. She was the driver. And she drove, she was a senior in high school, she drove a couple of different students as well. We'd have anywhere from 3 to 5 people in the car or van as we'd make our way, doing roughly the half an hour trek over to Lutheran High. It was, even though I didn't like the whole part of waking up a little bit earlier than some of my other friends who were going to more local high schools, I really didn't mind it. And actually, I kind of got used to and actually would plan accordingly to having a little half an hour chunk for me to do some extra studying or to finish some last minute things that needed to be done before the next school day started. So it's just something that you got used to. Obviously, one of the great parts about high schools as these kids grow up is they're going to be able to drive themselves. And that's a really great thing as well. As yeah, it was an inconvenience to wake up a little bit earlier than some of my friends, but it totally was worth it and worked out, and it really didn't feel as far away as a half an hour once you got used to it. And then finally, sports, and this is a great example, I'd like to think, of how my life would have played out quite differently, just purely based on the high school I went to, if sports were my number 1 priority. So if I would have gone to my local high school, I was in Alton School District, I would have gone to a high school of, somewhere around 2,000 kids or even more than that. I wasn't all that great of an athlete as a freshman. I was undersized despite my size now. I was a pretty small kid, shorter kid, relatively coordinated, but again, just not overly athletic. I very likely would have been cut from the 2 sports that I loved. Sports were a pretty big part of my life growing up, golf and baseball, as you guys probably know, were my two favorite ones to play. I played both of them in high school. And if I would have gone to Alton High, I really was not that great as a freshman. In either one of those, I definitely would not have made varsity in either. Maybe I would have made a JV or a freshman. It's obviously hard to say, but there's a decent chance that I would have been cut from both. That would have been quite a shock for me, going from playing multiple sports throughout my grade school days to playing none. I just really wonder what my life would have looked like if that was the case. But as it stood, I went to Lutheran High and had an opportunity to get right into things. I remember my fall semester, that first semester, freshman year, trying out for the golf team. And I was really nervous about it, but I ended up making varsity. And even though I wasn't necessarily the best player, I at least had an opportunity to get a ton of experience right off the bat. As a 14-year-old, I was playing against 16, 17, and 18-year-olds from Edwardsville High School, from Alton High School, from a lot of the powerhouse schools in the area. And even though I didn't really do all that well, I improved, and just throwing me directly into varsity competition made me mature and develop, I think, very, very quickly. So throughout my freshman year, I didn't really do all that well, but man, I was just into it, and there were a lot of my friends who were also we were roughly in the same skill level, and we just all grew and developed equally. And before you know it, I was competitive with some of those larger schools, and we ended up having a lot of success within sports, within golf in particular. For baseball too, I very likely would have been cut from an Alton High, even freshman baseball team. I'm not sure if I would have made it. But at Lutheran High, I was played on the freshman team, played some JV. By sophomore year, started JV, sat some varsity, did a little bit of varsity, and by the time I was a junior and senior, again, I had a fair amount of playing time, good amount of playing time at the varsity level. I ended up with college athletic offers to play either sport. Again, not huge schools, I wasn't a huge athlete, but it's crazy to think that the two very different paths that were potentially in front of me. If I would have gone to a very large school, who knows, maybe I would have ended up with a college athletic offer, athletic scholarship offer or two, but I just doubt it. So looking back, to summarize, I would definitely say that after my 4 years, I was absolutely prepared for college. I remember going to my just kind of a general freshman seminar class, general studies class, all freshmen took, feeling worried, but very shortly I realized I was prepared. I was ready to go. My writing skills were very good, and just academically, I was ready for college, absolutely. Probably the biggest thing more than anything else in this is that my faith was strong. I knew who I was. I was confirmed. I had religion classes through high school. I had an advanced religion class in high school. And more importantly, I think this is, well, I guess not more importantly, but another thing on top of this is that I knew who I was. I knew that I was a child of God, and that that I was very much grounded in my faith. Now, this is something that I think a lot of teenagers and high schoolers struggle with. It's something that it's just part of growing up and finding your identity. But I knew who I was, and that was extremely important moving forward in my life. And finally, I had plenty of athletic opportunities. I could have played a bunch of different sports if I really wanted to, and even though I went to that small underdog school, I ended up with a college athletic scholarship and was able to go to a school that I wanted, and it was an excellent experience for me. Finally, last point here is that my parents found a will and found a way to make the finances work. Just like you guys sacrifice and do some budgeting to make sure that you can afford to send your son or daughter here to Zion, it's the same idea moving forward. The final thing to note is sometimes numbers get thrown around, both here at Zion as well as at your various local private schools and Christian schools. But know that there's financial assistance available, and the average student pays less often than the advertised price. So even if you guys have a certain number in mind, or well, I don't know know if we can pay this much per month or pay this much per year. Just pray about it. Consider the things listed here. You're welcome to talk to me. And I'll leave you guys with this. A thought that I continually share with my students as my wife and I, at least at this point, are considering being parents and likely will be parents at some point here soon, is I think about my kids, my future kids, and I think about what things would I be most willing to spend money on. What's really important? What, more than paying for video games, more than paying for a new shiny car, or whatever else it is. What's really important? I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and say, you know what? I'm going to pay for anything related to their faith. Most important to me, that is the most important thing in their life. That's where I need to spend money on them. That's where I'm willing to invest money to make sure that their faith is strong. And secondly, academics. I want to make sure that they have the best academic opportunities possible. And so I'd like to think that going to Lutheran High to me was kind of a double way, a way to have both of those things going on. But again, there's a lot of different things. I understand that you all have come from different circumstances and have different answers to some of these various factors. But again, continue to pray. If you'd like to speak with me further about this, you're absolutely welcome to do so. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time.